2 weeks, not a month, 2 weeks. So hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Nasia. Today's video is going to be about how to get an advanced score on your TEAS exam. Now, what is a TEAS exam? TEAS exam is an entry exam you take to get into your top nursing school or any nursing school. I have an iPad because it's a lot of information and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm gonna give you all the details and stuff that you need to know. First, I want to give you guys my experience on my TEAS exams. So this video is to help you guys prep for the TEAS exams, help you guys pass the TEAS exams with an advanced score in the fastest way possible in 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks, guys. I passed my TEAS exam with an advanced score in 2 weeks. So this video, pay attention to this video because 2 weeks, not a month, 2 weeks. So my experience, right? I took the TEAS exam during my winter break of my senior year. And the plan is to get into an accelerated program or whatever kind of nursing program after I graduate the following year. So I only had really a month to study for my TEAS exam, which was the deal, right? Winter break is the end of December, and I had the whole of January to study and pass my TEAS exams. However, I ended up getting COVID right after, 2 days after I went on break. I ended up getting COVID. I ended up getting really sick with COVID, y'all, and this was around the time when everyone was catching that COVID bug during Christmas and New Year's. And I got tested positive December 24th, literally Christmas Eve, right? I was in quarantine for 10 days. I had really bad symptoms. I had every symptom you could think of, right? Except for loss of taste and smell, I think. I had every other symptom you could think of, right? So it took me about 2 weeks to fully recover from COVID because I could not study for my TEAS exams while I was that sick. So I had 2 weeks to pass my TEAS exams because I had already pre-scheduled my exam date for just January 23rd, I think. That was my exam date. And I already went through the first 2 weeks of my winter break, COVID, no studying and all. So 2 weeks to study and I was panicking, procrastinating, but your girl did it. Your girl busted out at 86%. Let me give you my stats right now. So my score was at 86%. That is in the advanced category. And there's four parts. There's 4 parts of the TEAS exams. There's the reading part, math, science, and then English language usage. So my score for the reading was a 91.5%. Math was at 84.4%. Science was at 85.1%, and English and language usage was 87.5%. Now, while I was studying, let me tell you guys what was the hardest for me to study for and what was the easiest. What I thought I would have done better in, I shall say. So the hardest for me to study for was reading because obviously you don't really know what to really study for. Reading is more so strategic and what just makes the most sense in that moment. It's kind of hard to study for the reading portion because it's articles, detailed articles, and then, it's either common sense or, you can't really study for that. But I was mainly focusing on the math. I was actually pretty confident in math. I was focusing on the math though because I haven't took math in a while, so I had to relearn everything and try to just memorize all of the formulas. It is a lot of formulas. So my advice to you, I'm gonna get to that, but my advice to you, memorize every single formula you can. The section I thought I was going to do worse on was the English and language usage because I was practicing the questions and I was failing every practice test that I took, and I was like, am I really this slow? Because I'm not gonna pass this test. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I somehow did it, and I'm gonna tell you guys how I did it. how I busted out a miracle. But yeah, so reading and English language usage, that was my two top ones that I thought I would have really did bad on. I was really confident in science and math just because I'm always better in science and math than reading. But yeah, the roles flipped and I somehow did better in reading than math. Math was my lowest score, which is surprising, but you know, I am still proud of my 84. Who's telling me what? But yeah, what tripped me up on the math section even more is that it is entirely made up of word problems. So you are going to have to decipher the word problems carefully, because if you don't, you are going to make a mistake, and you don't want to rush through it, because you have to recognize what formulas you're going to use and what is the problem really telling you is what trips me up the most. So just keep that in mind. But now we're going to move on to the structure of the TEAS exams. And I gave y'all a little information here and there and just throwing it out, but I just wanted to tell you guys my experience. So now I'm going to go into the structure of the TEAS exam. So as I said, there's 4 sections of the TEAS exams. So let's start with math. Math is, you're giving 57 minutes to complete the math section, and there's going to be 38 questions, and most of them are going to be word problems, just letting y'all know right now. For science, there is going to be 50 questions, and you're going to be given 60 minutes to complete 50 questions. For reading, you're going to be given 55 minutes, and then you're going to be given 42 questions to complete in 55 minutes. And English language usage, you are going to be given 37 minutes to complete 37 questions, which is not a lot of time, but I'm wishing y'all the best of luck, because if I could get through it, you guys can get through it too. Now that we've went through the structure and how many questions there is, how much time there is, this is basically another SAT exam. So if you did well on your SAT exam, you're gonna definitely do well on this. It's just the science part is added to it. Now I wanna go over the tools that I used to get a really good score in a minimum of 2 weeks. I'm a really, really bad test taker, guys. I thought I was gonna fail this test. I am a really bad test taker. I did not get a really good SAT score, so I was really nervous for this test and nervous for my situation of only having 2 weeks to study for this test. Anyhow, the tools that I used was Nurse Hub. So I only had 2 weeks to study for. I've been saying this a lot, 2 weeks. I use Nurse Hub, and basically it's a tool, it's a software, a website you use to study for nursing entry exams or any type of entry exams, but mainly focusing on nursing. I think it's only nursing. So what I did is I paid for a monthly subscription, and I knew I was only going to be using it for 1 month. So after the 1 month was finished, I planned on deleting my subscription, and the subscription was $19.99 a month. Also, the tool that really helped me to pass my TEAS exams was forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, Momentrix study guide. I'm gonna put a picture right here of the study guide. It's a really popular study guide. The study guide is to the T of how the actual exam looks, so that is really useful. That helped me a lot, especially with the English language portion, which I was struggling with. It helped a lot. I'm gonna get into the different sections. I'm just going over the tools first. And the other tool that I used was, well, I mainly focused on the Momentrix and the Nurse Hub. So what I did with the Nurse Hub is I took practice exams on each section, and obviously for English language usage and reading, you can't really make a study guide, or it's mainly just you have to practice and make strategies and all of that, basically get used to it and teach yourself. But for the the math and science portions, you're gonna have to memorize a lot. So I did practice questions on those, and for the math and science sections, when I did the practice questions, I used the rationales to get the formulas and the reasonings, and basically the how-to portion on how to solve a problem you don't know, or information you don't know in the science portion. I copy and paste it into a separate study guide for each section, and I kept doing that as I did my practice exams. And the week of my TEAS exam, I printed out the study guides and I sat there and I memorized and memorized and memorized and memorized. So you could also make a study guide for each section. Depending on how you learn, do it the way you know best, or the way you learn best. Do it according to your learning style. So that's basically the tools that I used and the way I studied for these exams. Now, let me get into each section and what works best for each section. For the math section, you're gonna need to know a lot of formulas, a lot of measurements. You're gonna have to memorize a lot of the measurements. Now, let me tell you a mnemonic that saved my life for the measurements, because I am absolutely terrible at measurements. At least I was, until I found out about this one. So a popular one that a lot of people use is, it's called King Henry Died by Drinking Chocolate Milk. I'm going to put a picture right here of what each letter stands for in this mnemonic. And you guys are smart. You guys could memorize it and you'll get it. For the math, what I did was I used Nurse Hub, and I did a lot of the practice questions for each topic. And then if I didn't know a formula, if I couldn't remember a formula, I didn't know it, I put it onto a separate Google Doc and I started making an outline, a study guide of everything I needed to know. Using the rationales, of course, from the practice questions. That's what I did for the math part. On to the science part. I did a similar thing. I learned majority of the topics from completing the practice questions on Nurse Hub, and I did the same exact thing. But a good thing about the science part, you don't need to know the formulas. Obviously, there's not much formulas. The type of science that you're going to be tested on is mainly biology. Like, there's a lot of protein questions, scientific methods questions such as independent or dependent variables, anatomy. One that always trips me up is the muscles, like the smaller units of the muscles. That's definitely on there. Just study a lot of the anatomy part, scientific methods, and the bio part. Those are the most challenging components of the science portion, in my opinion. And just do a lot of practice questions on it. That's how you're gonna memorize it. For the reading portion, Nurse Hub wasn't really helpful for the reading portion, honestly. Do not use Nurse Hub to study the reading portion. It's nothing like the TEAS exams. Use the Mometrics, the study guide, to build a study habit for the reading portion. That's all I could say. It's basically basic knowledge, and it's just something that you're gonna have to keep doing practice questions over and over and over until you realize what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then just decipher it from there. Just keep practicing. I did this in 2 weeks, but I literally studied every day nonstop. So, and now for the last section, the English language usage part, that was literally the hardest part for me personally, for studying wise. I feel like I did good on the exam, which obviously you guys know I did good because I gave you my scores. But studying for it, I was doing so terrible on the practice exams, and I was so worried that I was gonna fail this section. Now, let me tell you guys what I did. Now, use the study guide also for this section. It's literally the same exact format on the TEAS exam for the English language usage section. In the book is the same exact format, so use the book. The book saved my life. Even the day before the exam, I was sitting there doing terrible on the practice exams, but at least taking the practice exams before the exam, I was realizing what I was doing wrong, and I was learning from my mistakes, and it prepared me for the actual thing, and I did really good. So use the book, guys. The book saved my life. Okay, I don't think I would be in nursing school today without it. So get the book, best investment ever. Now that is basically the TEAS exam, the structure, everything, what I used, how I studied for it, my experience. Now I'm just gonna give you tips, the day of the test tips, because these are things that I wish someone would have told me. Obviously, it's not like the same as going to school and taking a test there and the professor telling you what to do the day before, because you don't have a professor. You're doing this on your own. You're a college student. You have to do this on your own and fend for yourself. So I'm gonna tell you some things that I wish I knew the day of the exam that will prepare you for the day of the exam. Now, be prepared to sit for a while. So I'm telling you now, guys, use the bathroom before the exam. Use it 3 times if you have to. I would not risk getting up to use the bathroom during the exam, especially if it's online. I can't tell y'all how it is in person, because I took mine online and it was proctored, and when it's proctored, someone is sitting behind the screen, to make sure you're not cheating. Also, yeah, don't try cheating because it's lockdown browser and proctored. So use the bathroom before the exam, because don't be screaming out the camera talking about, I'll be back, I gotta go use the bathroom, because the person is not gonna respond. And I wouldn't recommend going to the bathroom during the exam. Just use the bathroom before the exam. Pee 5 times if you have to, because you don't want to risk it. Also, that means do not chug a gallon water bottle right before the exam or even the same day. Try to limit your fluid. Stay hydrated, of course, but don't drink enough fluid to the point where you got to keep running back to the bathroom. My second tip is you don't really need to bring your own calculator. You don't really have to have your own calculator for the online portion, because at the top part, I think the right corner of the screen, there is a calculator already built into the exam. And it's kind of a pain in the neck. And I Googled it, and I don't think you're allowed to bring your own calculator, but you have to use their calculator on the exam, the one that's given on the exam. And it's a pain in the neck because it's kind of slow. It would be faster to use the actual calculator instead of one on the computer screen, but that's how they do it. Maybe they changed it, because I took my test last year. Maybe they changed it, but I would recommend you to not bring your own calculator, because I don't want them to think you're cheating. Just do anything to avoid looking sus, basically. My third tip is to eat a heavy breakfast, because this exam is brutal. This is brutal. You can't snack, you can't drink, you can't eat. I was starving after I finished my exam. My exam was 2 o'clock Eastern time, and I finished my exam going on 6 o'clock. And I didn't eat a heavy breakfast, and I was starving. So I recommend eating a heavy breakfast, also healthy. And it's brain food. As I was saying earlier, this exam takes about 3 hours to 3 hours and a half to complete. If you're a fast test taker, you might finish it in 2 hours and a half, but for us slow test takers, you might need all of your time. And trust me, I was one of those. I almost ran out of time. Luckily I didn't, but this test, you might actually almost run out of time. So also, when you're studying, try to test yourself in the time limit so you could manage your time better the day of the exam. My last tip is to obviously be in a quiet room, because if you're proctored, it's gonna pick up sound, and you don't want the proctor to think that you're talking to somebody. So do it in a quiet room, and also log in 30 minutes before the exam starts. So if your exam starts at 2 o'clock, log in at 1:30, because you're gonna have to do a bunch of things. You're gonna have to set up a bunch of things. Lockdown browser, the Proctor browser, and all of that. Also, make sure you're in an area with stable internet, because you don't want it kicking you out the exam because your internet stopped working. So that's very important, because they also require you to test your internet in order to start the exam. And those are all my tips. I'm pretty sure there's more things for you to know, guys, but those are the things that I wish I knew a few days before my exam. And I hope these things helped you guys. And if you are taking the TEAS exam or know someone taking the TEAS exam, you're preparing for the TEAS exams, I am wishing you an advanced score or a perfect score, or, you know, I'm wishing you good luck, and I hope you get into your top nursing school. And yeah, if you have any questions, please comment them down below. If there's anything I wasn't clear on, I would be happy to clarify it. I would be posting links of Nursing Hub and the study guide that I use down below in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, guys, and I'll see you in my next YouTube video.
Tick tock, girl, ticky ticky tock, tick tock, girl, why no stop, tick tock,